Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly with Money Gal Coaching, and I want to talk to you today about kind of personal finance 101. We're bringing it back to the basics. And so, the whole point of this presentation is to just let you know a little bit more about our personal finances, how we can get a little bit better with our money, more importantly, reduce stress, because that is the whole reason why I'm so passionate about personal finance and budgeting and debt specifically, is because it makes our life happier when we are good at it or when we're at least working towards it, right? And so let's dive in a little bit to see how you can make your life a little bit happier and how your personal finances can be the tool to help you get there. All right, so this is what $46,000 worth of debt looks right? I'm vacationing, Southern Colorado, wine country, living my hashtag best life. And I'm saying this because it is normal to have debt, which is unfortunate. And it is also something that we don't talk about, right? And so I graduated from college with over $60,000 worth of debt. I woke up one day 8 years later after making my minimum payments every month, over $500 a month, and I still had over $46,000 worth of debt. My whole world crumbled because I originally logged into my student loan accounts to figure out how much money I had left to pay. And they were always on auto payment. I didn't quite worry about it. I was never behind. And so I thought I was doing really great, right? And so 8 years later, after graduating, I logged in to see how close I was. And sure enough, I was not close at all. And I think that we all don't realize how minimum payments do nothing to our debt until we start looking at it more closely. And if anything, I just hope it to inspire you to open up those accounts and to look at how much debt you have, because by knowing is a huge game changer to actually changing our lives. So debt is too normal, as I said. So here are some quick stats. 40% of Americans have less than $3,000 or $300, in their savings accounts. The average credit card debt in America is over $6,000, and only 39% of Americans have enough cash to cover a $1,000 emergency fund. And if these stats are resonating with you, they were with me too. So don't beat yourself up over it. It's because we're not taught and we don't know how to make it better. And I truly believe that once we know more, and especially once we know better, we do better. And so just by peeking into what your current situation is, you're able to make your life that much better because you know what to change, right? And so maybe you don't have a fully stocked emergency fund. You probably don't. A lot of people don't. And that's okay. Maybe you have a lot of debt. Maybe you have a lot of high interest debt that you specifically are stressing about. Let's dig into each of those pieces and let's kind of fix things one piece at a time to make our lives exponentially better and to reduce the stress and to, more importantly, not be normal. Because if this is normal, no thank you. All right, so keeping up with the Joneses isn't working. And that is why debt is normal, is because we need the new car. And of course, I can't drive a car that's 5 or 6 years old. Something might happen to it. Or we deserve to put things on our credit card because this latest item came out. Or of course, I need the latest phone. Mine is, not doing too great and I need to replace it. But all of these things are very much first world problems, right? They're not things that we need. They're not things that are critical to our survival. They're things that are critical to keeping up with the Joneses, which I want to challenge you today to not do. I want you to create your own definition of the Joneses and you be the Joneses and you live that best life, because what I want is very different than what you want or what your neighbor wants or what your mom wants, right? And so this is all about, and I say this 100 times a day, personal finance is just that. It is personal. And so I want you to think about what is important to me. What does my ideal quality of life look like? What is included in it? Where am I going? Where am I living? What do I get to buy? And let's just do more of those things. Let's not do the things just to keep up with our neighbors. Okay, so debt is owing money to anyone for any reason. Let's say that again. Having debt, the debt itself, is owing money to anyone for any reason. And I want to clarify this in the beginning, because if you're already thinking about, okay, I need to look up my debt, but you're not thinking about that car payment, you're not thinking about that student loan, you're not thinking about that boat payment that you have. Anytime you owe money to somebody, that's debt. And it doesn't mean that you're going to become intends in paying that debt off. It just means that you are aware that you are paying interest on it, most likely, and it's money that is going out the window, and whether we want to prioritize it or not is up to ourselves, but it's about knowing that it exists. Okay, so the breakdown of a debt payment, those monthly payments that we make to our servicer or to the loan providers, is comprised of a few things. Two being interest, or the interest amount, the payment, and then also our principal payment. And those combine together into actual one payment. But the interest amount is that amount that you're being charged every single month, every single year, based off of your interest rate. And so they talk about like low interest debt, anything probably under 5 or 6%, and then high interest debt is anything above that. So you're paying 5 or 6% on the amount of money that you took out, right? And so the amount of money that you took out, that's that principal. And so when you're paying money towards your principal, you're paying money towards bringing down that initial chunk of money that you took out. But we also have that interest, which is adding up money to that principal amount because we're getting charged to have that loan out. And that is why this is so important. Knowing how much you have you're paying in interest per month is really critical to knowing, is this a debt that I want to pay off or not? Am I willing to pay $20 a month to have this car loan? Maybe. Do I want to pay $200 a month on this credit card debt? Maybe not. And again, that's up to you. It's personal. Okay, so let's take an example of a car loan because these are very common. I feel like they're almost too common where we don't think it's like a bad debt. And while it isn't necessarily a bad debt, debt can't be good or bad. We all as humans put our projections onto them. Let's just see how it works out. So if we have an $18,000 car loan with 6% interest, right? Nothing too crazy happening so far. There's a 4-year loan and a 6-year loan. The 4-year loan will cost us $422.73 a month. And the 6-year loan will cost us $298.31 a month. And this is important because these are loan terms. So they'll always say, what term do you want to sign up for any loan? And the longer the term, the less amount of money that we usually have to pay per month. But the kick is we're paying interest over a longer period of time, and it's usually ending up being more expensive. And so just by looking at this, I might say, oh, the 6-year loan looks really good. I can afford $300 a month. The 422, I could afford it, but what if something happens and I don't know if I want to put myself in that situation? And so I'm just going to sign up for the 6, right? But then we look at the total interest paid. There are calculators on the internet, people, that will help you do the math to figure out which loan is best for you. A lot of banks will also even tell you the entire the amount that you will end up paying. And it's important to look at those numbers. And so the total interest paid on this $18,000 car for the 4-year loan is $2,200, and for the 6-year loan is $3,400. So that's this $18,000 car that we thought was not a bad deal, $18,000, right? Like that's a reasonable amount for a car. You're now paying over $20,000 and almost $21,500 on this $18,000 car. And I'm diving in pretty quickly here because I want you to wrap your heads around how debt works, what interest payments, what they look like, how they actually resonate in real numbers, so that you can just start your wheels turning about, is this something that I want to pay actually extra on? Because while the $18,000 car is okay, if they were to say the car was $21,478, would I have walked away? And sometimes the answer is yes. And so it's just important to know these numbers ahead of time. It's important to know how the numbers work and what they actually mean before we're signing up for this debt. Okay. And the reason why this is all important is because our income is being pulled into so many different places, as I'm sure you're aware of. We have the life expenses, our car insurance, our phone bill, our cable, our internet, our rent, our mortgage, everything that it costs just to live, right? Then we have our necessities that make it actually possible to live. Our food, our shelter, driving to and from work, clothing that we need to like go to these jobs and to show up in society without being naked, right? We have our savings account. We're also told by society we need to be saving for retirement. We also need to be saving to buy for a future car or a future down payment on a home. We also have this hashtag living my best life, where we're going to restaurants and vacations and entertainment. Our money is being pulled in so many different directions. It is hard to focus. And this model is exactly why we are feeling stressed out every single month, because we don't know what we should be focusing on. We don't have enough to do all the things. And so we're just kind of doing it all really bad, right? But there is a better way. you can break free from this lifestyle of the paycheck to paycheck, the stress, the debt payments, the overwhelm, the uncertainty, all of these feelings that we get when we're poorly managing our finances. Again, not at our own fault, because we're just not taught this. And so just like anything else, we have to learn how to do it the first time. And then we can kind of get better and perfect it as we go, right? And so this is me teaching you for the very first time. This is what personal finance is. This is how complicated it seems, but how really easy it can be. And so don't be stressed out or bogged down by your personal situation, because we can change it and life can be actually really good on the other end. So I want you to close your eyes. Are you actually closing them? I'm looking at you. And I want you to envision your dream life, right? Where are you living? Who are you with? What are you doing for work? Are you even working? What do you do in your free time? Some of the things that you were just envisioning, imagining, dreaming about might seem hard to reach, right? It might seem impossible. But I want you to know that nothing is impossible, because while we can't have everything, we can have anything. And that anything is the piece that I was speaking to about you creating your own Joneses, you creating your own standard of this is what a great life looks like. This is what we're doing now. You're creating that standard of what is my dream life and how do I get there? We're going to create a roadmap to you getting there, because it looks different for everybody. And maybe you want to live remotely, or maybe you want to work remotely. Maybe you want to live abroad. Maybe you want to start saving money to start a family. Maybe you want to buy that fancy condo on the 200th floor in New York City. Does that even exist? I hope so. Whatever your dream life is, we just have to make sure that it's included in our savings plans and it fits towards our income that we currently have. It doesn't mean that that everything isn't possible, but it just means that we have to work with what we have, right? Realistically, I could make this a fluffy presentation and I could say, dream big, don't have limiting beliefs, make sure that you're spending in a way that will fit the desired life that you have. But when it comes to reality, that's money coming out of your checking account. Those are bills that you're signing up for. And how can we make this fun and dream and reach our goals while also being very, very real about these are the tools that we're working with. So next we want to think about if you said yes to, as you were daydreaming and you were coming up with these goals and these ideas of what your life looks like, I want to ask you this. Do you want to reach these goals, right? Do you want to have meaningful work? Do you want to have security in your bank accounts? Do you want to be more confident in your money decisions? Do you want to just build more wealth? Not to be rich, where this isn't slimy, where I'm just trying to get you rich. It's about having enough money to fulfill and live the life that you want, right? So if you said yes to any of these things, this is exactly what I mean if you want to get when I ask you if you want to get your personal finances together. So when I say, do you want to be better at personal finance? Do you want to make your money less stressful? It's because we're answering yes to all of these things, right? And budgeting and paying off your debt will help you get to these things more quickly. So to achieve your dreams, we have to do a few things, because it just doesn't happen overnight, right? We have to be intentional with our income. And that's where the budget comes in. We have to make sure that we're using every dollar to reach our goals and to make us the most happiest. We need to define our goals, because we can't get to somewhere if we don't know where we're going, right? We have to know where our money is going. This is where also tracking our spending comes into play, because it's all wonderful to have a plan, our budget, right? But if we're not tracking our spending, and if our spending is out of whack with the plan, it's not working. And that's where tracking your progress also comes into play. Not only tracking your progress on following your budget, but tracking your progress on your goals. Then we also want to be sure that we're celebrating our wins, because it doesn't make sense to be hustling and grinding to get to this point that we want to have the our ultimate dream life, because that vision always changes, right? I remember being in college and I was thinking, I cannot wait to be done with college. It must be so nice to have a 9-to-5, and that's all you have to worry about. When you clock out at 5, you can literally do whatever you want. You don't have to study. You don't have to do any of these things. And then we're these adults with these 9-to-5s, and there's always something else, right? We don't just get to clock out and just have fun. There are real life things that we have to do. And so celebrating the small wins, building those into your plan to say, when I get to X, Y, and Z milestones, I'm going to celebrate by doing this. And it's going to be wonderful. And I'm going to live in the moment, and I'm going to cherish every moment of hard work that I put in, because I deserve this, right? So in order to reach our goals, in order to get to these dream lives and to live responsibly with our money while also having a lot of fun, we need to build good habits. So maybe you already have these student loans, maybe you already have these car loans, these debts that we've already taken on. There are ways that we can get rid of these debts. You have the power to change your life. And this is just like if you wanted to lose weight. You'd go to the gym, right? But the trainer, the personal trainer, cannot lose the weight for you. You have to put in the work. So I'm asking you today, are you ready to put in the work to change your life, to have the life that you deserve, to have the life that you want, to have the life that you're hungry for? Or are you just going to be okay with having debt and doing your normal job that is okay, but it pays good enough, or you're too scared to quit because what if you don't make enough money to pay your bills? And if you're on that side of things, this isn't for you. But if you're on the side of, I need more, I deserve better, listen up. So there's a 3-step budgeting system, and this is, again, one piece of the puzzle that can help you get to your goals. And so don't think of a budget as, somebody sitting on your shoulder and checking every single time that you swipe your card. This isn't about that. This is just about creating a plan and following it to get to those goals, right? So the first, you're going to track your past spending. And the reason why this is so important is because if we don't know where our money has been going, how can we tell it where we want it to go, right? If we don't know that we have a bad habit of eating out to eat on a regular basis, we don't know that we need to reduce spending and going out to eat. And so there's a free 90-day expense tracker on my website. I think we'll also have it linked here, but it helps you categorize all of your past spending, and it tells you how much you averagely spend in certain categories over the past 3 months. And this is really important because as you're creating your budget, you know how much money you already kind of spend in these categories. Because the last thing I want you to do is find some template online that says you should spend $200 a month on restaurants or $400 a month on groceries, because we are all different and that will make sense for nobody. You have to define the numbers that will make sense in your life. So first step is tracking your past expenses, getting that knowledge, that insight about your past habits. Second, we want to outline and we want to add our goals to our budget. So as we have these past expenses, this is kind of our draft of our budget. Now we're going to start adding in our goals. So I want to go on spring break next year. I want to make sure that I pay for Christmas without going into credit card debt. I want to make sure that we're saving for a new home down payment. I want to make sure that I have money for car repairs, right? All of those goals, those long-term savings items, we want to add those to our budget, because the more time that we have to save for those items, the cheaper it's going to be, right? So a great example is saving for Christmas. If you want $1,200 for Christmas this year, and let's say you start saving in November, you have 2 months to save for Christmas, that's going to cost you $600 a month to get to your $1,200 goal, right? If I start having you save for Christmas in January, which is what I tell everybody to do, you have 12 months until Christmas, and you only actually have to save $100 a month. $100 a month is so much easier to save than $600 a month, if you ask me, especially when November is also Thanksgiving and we have Black Friday. And let's make things easy on ourselves. This whole entire system is about making things easy and bringing it back to the basics and just knowing what we need to tackle, what's important and what's not. So the third piece is refining and adjusting with life. So what I mean by that is you always want to, your budget is a live creature, right? It's an organism. It's something that changes as you change, as your life changes. And so when you pay off those student loans, you can cross them off of your budget because you're no longer saving for them, right? If you want to have a baby, you have to start adding categories to your budget to start planning for those expenses. Let's say you all of a sudden bought a new car. We need to add that down payment, or we need to add that monthly expense of that loan to your budget as a category. And so once we create a budget, it's not done. It just means that this is a snapshot in my life right now. And month to month to month, it probably looks pretty similar, right? But as these big life events happen, as these big expenses that we take on, or we get a job promotion and we get a raise, as those big things happen, we need to make sure that our budget is reflecting it. So This is really important. And this is a phrase that I really like to just think about every once in a while when people think about money being icky or feeling certain way about building wealth, and just like sometimes people feel icky about wanting wealth, right? But this isn't about being rich. This isn't about being wealthy. This isn't about saving up and hoarding hundreds and millions of dollars, right? This is about freeing up your decisions, or freeing up time in your life to be able to make the decisions that you want. So being rich is having money, but being wealthy is having time. So we're not trying to get rich here. We're trying to be wealthy. I want you to be able to quit that job that no longer fulfills you. I want you to be able to pack up and move across the country if you get an opportunity and not have to feel like, but I have all these monthly payments that I can't afford to not be working for a couple of months, right? So when we pay off our debt, when we streamline our budget, when we make it work for us, when we actually have these long-term savings plans in place, we can make quicker decisions on the spot when big things come up. When your girlfriends call you and they're like, hey, let's go to Mexico next week. Tickets are like basically free. What is everyone doing? You know that you can pick up and go, right? This is what this is all about. This isn't about creating a budget, being a responsible adult, and following the rules. It's more fun than that. So, who doesn't love a good budget? I feel like I've convinced you now that a budget is not that bad, right? If not, we'll get there. So, this is remember that image before about where your income is being pulled in a million different directions. It was very chaotic. It was very sporadic. This is what I want your income to be doing, right? I want you to have 3 different areas of your life that you're spending your money on. You have your expenses, you have your savings, and then you have your life things, right? So your expenses are spending that may be fixed or variable, regular or irregular. And what I mean by that is our fixed expenses are your rent that you pay every single month, your cell phone bill. And those are regular, right? Because they happen every single month. You might have irregular expenses like a car getting broken down. Or maybe you have an irregular annual expense like your Amazon Prime account, right? While they happen at all different periods of your life, monthly, annually, semi-annually, it is still an expense that you have to pay for, right? It's a bill that you have. And that's where it kind of overlaps with our savings. So these are future savings to enjoy for later, the near and the far. So the near being, I want to save up for a spring break trip. I want to make sure I have money for Christmas, right? And the far might being that retirement. And so that's where kind of savings and expenses overlap. You can see in this diagram for 401k. You're saving for the future, right? It's a long-term savings goal. But it's also an expense that just comes out of your paycheck automatically and you don't even look at it. And so they can overlap. There is no like clear black and white buckets here. The third category is life. This is what makes us happy. This is the restaurants. This is buying, getting our nails done if that's important to us, being able to go on road trips. And that kind of ties into both savings, where we're saving for vacations long term, but then we're enjoying that part of savings, that part of life when it's happening, but also expenses. Netflix is a good example of that one, right? You don't need Netflix. Nothing bad will happen if you cancel Netflix. It's an expense that you have though at the same time, right? But it's also a quality of life thing. So it's a category that if you absolutely had to, you could delete it. So take a look at this. Take a screenshot. We have our expenses, our savings, and our life. They cross each other. They aren't always just black and white borders. But you get to define what items in your life that you're spending money on in each of these different categories. And depending on where you're at in life will depend on what you emphasize more in, right? When I was getting out of debt, it was all savings. Every penny I made, besides those required expenses, went towards paying off my debt, right? Saving can also just be like paying down your debt is also considered a savings because you're ultimately saving money, right? You're paying less interest over time. But maybe now that my debt's paid off, maybe I'm loosening the belts up a little bit and I'm spending more money in life, right? And then maybe I'll get to a point where I get a big promotion and I'm making more money and I want to increase savings again to make sure that I'm hitting that retirement goal on time or early, right? So it's just good to know, have your finger on the pulse of what is going on with your finances. Then we get to the juicy part. Well, I have my budget. I know what I want to do. I have my goals outlined. I want to live on a beach somewhere, but how do I pay off my debt to help me get there? And for some people, you don't have debt. Congratulations. That's really awesome. Or paying off your debt isn't a priority. Maybe you have one $5,000 loan and it's 2% interest rate. It doesn't really bother you. You have other things that you're working on, right? You don't have to worry about this. But for 99% of the population, as we saw in the beginning slides, where 9 times out of 10 people don't have an emergency fund, they don't have enough to pay for a $300 bill. All of those is because we have this debt that's over our heads and stressing us out. So there are a few different tactics that you can take to actually pay off debt. This isn't some fluffy presentation where I'm saying, hey, you should pay off your debt and we move on. This is how you actually pay off your debt, right? Let's start at the top. You pay more than your minimums. That's the key. And that is when I had that wake up call 8 years after making my monthly minimum payments. And I realized I had only paid off $14,000 in 8 years. And I made basically no progress on the $60,000 debt, right? Once I started making those above minimum payments, the paying extra on my debt, I paid it off in 20 months. It's amazing how intentional you can get when you pay more than your minimums. Next, pay your high interest debt first. We're going clockwise here. High interest debt is that debt, like we said, is over the 5 to 6% mark. And the reason why you want to focus on that first is that is the debt that you're paying the most amount of money in interest, the money that's being thrown out the window, not being used for anything. So focus on that debt first. When you focus on that debt, you're allowing yourself to have more money in the long run. You can also, when you're looking at this, look up the snowball versus the avalanche method. Snowball is your lowest amounts first, the lowest quantities of debt you have first. And then the avalanche is the highest interest rate first. And so you definitely want to tackle high interest rates first, or high interest rate debt, absolutely. But maybe you want to actually do the snowball method where you are paying off those lower debts first. And the reason why that's really important is you're getting those quick wins. As you're paying off those $1,000, $4,000, $6,000 loans, you're feeling the accomplishment and you're able to keep going. So look at those two methods, decide which one feels better for you. Next, we can consolidate our loans. And so this is really big when we have high interest rate debt, especially that if we can consolidate it, we maybe have a similar monthly payment, sometimes a little bit less, but then we are able to get a lower interest rate. And so if you have the opportunity to combine loans together, that's when we consolidate it for a lower interest rate, that is absolutely a good choice. You definitely want to run the numbers. Remember we talked about those terms. If you have 5 years left to pay off these two debts that we're talking about, and you sign up for a consolidated loan that has a 10-year term, you're now doubling the amount of time that you're paying off that debt. So be careful about that. Next, you want to track your spending. And this is where that budget can help, because when you know where you're spending money, you're able to then, or where you're spending excessive money, you know where you're able to target reducing spending in those categories. And you can then use that extra money as we reduce the spending to be thrown at our debt. We're focusing everything at our debt, right? This is if when you were daydreaming, if your number one goal was pay off debt, or debt is the thing that keeps you up at night, these are the tactics that you want to take. So keep a really close eye on all of your spending and knowing where your money is going. And when you reduce your spending, as you're getting better at your budget, throw that extra money at paying off your debt. Next, we want to refinance our loan. And so consolidating our loans before was combining two into one. Refinancing is just getting a lower interest rate. And so oftentimes consolidating results in a lower interest rate, but refinancing specifically at a lower interest rate will be good, especially if you don't have multiple loans to put together. If you just have that one student loan and maybe it's at 6% because it's a private loan, and you want to, the market right now is maybe 4%. So you want to just refinance it to get that 4%, you're now saving 2% on interest. Don't miss a payment is another way to pay off your debt. And I know this sounds really obvious, but when we miss payments, a couple of things happen. We might actually accrue penalties and fees, which is then increasing the amount of money that we have to pay. If you're also in a student loan repayment plan where it's maybe forgiven after a certain period of time, when we miss payments, we no longer qualify for that plan. And so make sure that you are doing anything that you can, all the reminders on your phone, in your calendar, maybe you even have auto payment on. Don't miss those payments because it will just throw off your whole plan when you're paying extra on your debt because of penalties. Next is we have a specific monthly payment goal. And so when I was getting out of debt, I had a goal of waitressing one night a week. And this was on top of my day job, right? And the one night a week, I just needed to make $100. Usually I made more than $100, but I didn't want to stress myself out because this was additional income where maybe I had to miss a shift one week. And so I only had 3 shifts to make up that money, right? And so my goal was to make $400 a month. That's $100 a shift once a week. That $400 was the amount of money that I originally was paying extra on my debt, right? And that was non-negotiable. So that was my specific monthly payment that I was making on top of that $500 minimum payment already. So I had a non-negotiable amount of $900 a month, the $500 minimum payment plus the $400 in waitressing money that I was paying on my debt every single month. And in order to make this happen, you maybe have to make it the very beginning of the month, and then you get to do whatever you want with your extra money, right? Or if you make more and above and beyond that 400, maybe you can actually just enjoy that money, or maybe you decide that you want to use that extra money also on paying off your debt. You get to choose, right? But by having a specific amount of money that you're paying, that you're committing to yourself, that you're going to pay each month, you can follow a plan of, you know, exactly when you're going to become debt free, and you also know how much is enough, because we're bogged down in these debt payment plans where we're just never feeling like we're paying enough, or the debt's never going to go away, or my money is being spread so thin, I just don't have money for other areas in my life. Set your limits and know when you are following the plan and when you cannot have to go above and beyond, right? And the last thing, increase your income. And so whether you want to ask for a raise, seek a promotion, maybe you want to change jobs or careers or fields altogether. Maybe you just want to pick up a side hustle. Whatever it is, when we increase our income, we have more money to put towards our goals, to put towards our debt. And so that's what that waitressing job was for me. I had always waitressed. It wasn't, but before paying off my debt, the waitressing money was fun money. And then once I got my ducks in a row, the waitressing money quickly became paying off debt money. And that's when the traction actually happened in paying off my debt. So use these methods to create a plan to pay off your debt. Stick with it short term, be really intense, be really focused. And then after that, you can loosen up a little bit and you can enjoy life a little bit more. So some of the key things to paying off your debt, to becoming debt free, to following a budget, to be good at your personal finances, those are all the tangible things. But the emotional pieces of that, relieving your stress, stop the paycheck to paycheck cycle, being able to afford things more easily, being able to afford life, not having guilt when you're spending money, knowing that you have debt in other areas. All of that is the result of a few things, right? It just doesn't happen overnight. We have to know our why. We have to know the reason that we are doing all of this. My whole why was to stop having to waitress so that I can actually spend more time with my friends. I had big FOMO. I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I feel like I was saying no to so many vacations and dinners out and impromptu Saturday night hangouts because I was waitressing all the time, right? That was my why, and I was just stuck to it. So figure out your why. Write out your goals where you can see them. You want this to be really visible. You want this to be transparent. You want you and everyone in your house and your friends to know what you're doing and what your goals are. The more people that you can get behind you to support you, the more people that will be there for you when it gets really hard. Have an accountability partner. And whether that is your spouse, whether it is your best friend, your mom, have somebody that can help you and check in with you when times get tough. So somebody that's going to say, hey, did you make your monthly payment already on your debt? Great, let's go to dinner. Or, hey, let's have a budgeting little night. I need to get my finances back on track, and I just want somebody to have a cocktail with and chat money, right? An accountability partner, somebody that we can open up to and have these deep, raw conversations with, is going to be really crucial to hitting these goals. Remember, we want to celebrate all of our wins. You want to have milestones built into your plan that you can actually enjoy this process, because it can be stressful. And so Derek and I have a budgeting and beers quarterly date where quarterly we look at our budget, our net worth, our finances, and we have fun beer during it, and we enjoy each other's company, and we make a fun meal. And that's how you can make sure that this is still a fun process. This isn't always something sad and depressing and a task that's just on your to-do list that you have to check off. Make it an experience, right? We want to budget and track our expenses and make it easy on yourself. If you are a software person, get something on your computer or get an app on your phone. Don't recreate the wheel. There's systems out there in place that link automatically to your bank accounts that can help you create your budget and also track your spending at the same time. So talk about money with your partner. If you're sharing money with somebody, you need to have an open dialogue, an open conversation, a safe space to have these conversations with that person. You should also be reaching your goals together. So you should both have goals within the budget as well as household goals, but individual goals. You should have individual spending money also for both of you in your budget. This isn't about one person, whoever manages the finances, what their plan is. This is about, as a household, as a couple, as a partner, what do we want to accomplish together? What do we want to dream about? And how are we going to get there? So find a system that works for you. And like I said, make it easy on yourself. If you love having an app, the latest technology, test a few out. Find the one that works the best for you. If you really like just journaling and notebooks and pen and paper, the feel of that and the smell of that, then get a bullet journal for budgeting and write down your expenses maybe Sunday mornings when you're drinking your coffee. It could be really fun, and it can be tailored to what your preference and your lifestyle is. And next, add reminders to your calendar and to your phone. So again, make this easy on yourself. Don't try to remember when your quarterly budgets and beer dates is. Put it in the calendar, ending never for all of time, right? If you want to have your monthly budget conversation with your partner before you guys create your monthly budget, or review at least your past spending, put it in the calendar. That way you both are on the same page. If you aren't working with a partner, congratulations. You just have to manage money on your own, which is way easier. And just make sure that you're still putting those reminders in for yourself in place. And maybe you even bring your accountability partner and you guys do it together. Make it easier on yourself. And all of these things coming together will help you reach your goals, paying off debt, saving for those larger things, and ultimately reduce your stress around your money. So don't let the fear of getting started prevent you from truly living your best life. And I know some of you are there right now. So I want to challenge you. If you're just worried about, I don't even want to know how much debt I have. I know my spending was out of control. I don't even need to see all the transactions that are on my bank statement. If this is you, I want to challenge you. Pick one thing that you promise to do today for yourself to just move 1 inch closer to your goal. You don't need to make leaps and bounds of progress. I'm not asking you to do a 12-hour working session and then never look at this ever again, right? Just do one thing at a time. So maybe add it to your calendar that you're just going to log into your statements and add up your debt on this weekend, right? Maybe you're going to say, okay, I'm going to actually just look at my spending for the last 90 days. Maybe you're just going to say, I am just going to put my payments on auto payments, so it's one less thing that you have to worry about. Whatever it is, you get to decide, and you need to just outline, what are the things that I want to work on that I can start just slowly unraveling this mystery of personal finance to just make it that much easier and that much better. Because it doesn't have to be scary. And I promise, once you get to the point of a system and it's working and it's on autopilot, it is so easy. And a lot of people in the personal finance world, in the finance world, you'll even hear them say, I don't even follow a budget, right? They got to the point where they don't have to. They know what their quality of life feels like that they can afford. But we all aren't born with that, right? We need to know, what does $400 a month in restaurants look like? What does going on vacation twice a year look like with my income? And this process, this part of personal finance that we just covered, this will help you get to those points. And then as we get better at it, it's less work. It's less maintenance in the system. It's just a gut feeling at that point. So 90-day expense tracker. It's a tool that I have on my website. We will link it to you all as well. And it's the tool that you can use to figure out those past expenses, how much the last 90 days cost in your world. And these are the important numbers to figure out, how much money should I be putting in my budget for certain categories. And I want to tell you, if you've never downloaded this tool, it is the most requested, hands down, most eye-opening thing that I have for anyone, including paid clients. And it is a free tool on my website. So look for the tool and figure out, where are my past expenses going? Where was my spending going? And what can I change to reach my goals more quickly? And what can I maybe add in that I'm not even realized that I need to start including it in my budget? Big life things that are coming up that we're not even saving for. Use the tool. It's going to be a game changer, I promise you. And that is the end, folks. So thank you so much for giving me your time, for your attention, for listening to personal finances for the last 40 minutes. It was my pleasure. It's a topic that I'm really passionate about because it changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. So please promise me one thing, that you will just jot down a couple of things that you want to do now that you've learned and you're opened up to this whole world of personal finance. and just start to tackle those items one item at a time. So good luck, have fun. And of course, we're all here for you if you ever need any support. Bye.